Hey everyone, welcome back to Spirit Recovery. If you will, uh, please hit the subscribe button and give me a presence on YouTube. And if you hit the little bell, you'll be notified every time I do a post. Yeah, thank you all for watching. The topic I want to talk about today is something I believe and this works for me and you, by the way, so I'm not pointing anybody's direction, but for everyone's direction. It's something that we overcomplicate uh, way too often in recovery and in our spiritual walk, and that is prayer. Some people pray for the simple reason that they don't know what to say. Some people don't pray because they don't believe in God or have tried prayer in the past and nothing happened. So let me give you some ideas that's helped me in my recovery and in my faith walk. And remember, prayer is a dialogue, which would be number one. It is not a monologue. So when you pray, listen, pray, and listen. And find a place where there's no distractions. Turn off the phone. Take a pen and a paper. Why? Because I discovered a long time ago that when I prayed, I got bombarded with thoughts and things that life things, issues. And it was just made it so difficult to pray. I didn't want to pray. My first thoughts are that I'm under attack from the enemy, the devil himself. And I know that he doesn't want me to pray or even think about praying because it messes up his playground, which is my mind. So when I took a pen and paper, I would get down to pray and I would write those thoughts that came into my head out. And as I wrote the thoughts out, I noticed it was kind of important things I needed to take care of. Maybe a bill that was coming due that I had to pay, or just things I'd left out and forgot to do. And I wrote those thoughts down. And when I was finished praying, I looked down and I said, "Those are the things that I'm supposed to do." So my mind started thinking, "Is God talking to me?" And that's the way I kind of prefer to look at it now. But once I got those thoughts wrote down, my mind was clear to enter the courts of heaven in my Father's throne room, and I could pray without any distraction. But it was real interesting because if it happened once or twice, it'd be one thing. But it happened often enough that I just noticed that there was some distractions. There were things, maybe noise or whatever, but it was mainly the fact that God's trying to tell me what my priorities is. But when we approach Him, He talks back in different ways sometimes. The prayer you pray may be answered not how you like it or not on the timing that you like it. And that really is tough for a lot of people in recovery to see because it really is something they want the prayer they answer right this moment. And they may get the answer right this moment, just not the one they want. So just keep that in mind too. So number two is if you don't really know what to say in prayer, start with something that you know, which is the Lord's Prayer. And you notice it begins, "Our Father who art in heaven." So it is a prayer to God. And and here's how I like to make it more of a personal prayer myself. So I wrote down here how I would pray that prayer. "My Father, I hallow your worship and adore your name. Let your kingdom have rule over me today. Your will be done in my life just like it is in heaven. Today I ask for food to nourish me. Forgive me for where I've transgressed against you, and I choose to forgive anyone that's harmed me in word or in deed. Keep me from those temptations the evil one plans to spring on me. Rescue me from all evil. To you belongs kingdom, all power, and all glory. Amen." So that's making the prayer personal between God and myself. So when Jesus gave this prayer, which is found in Matthew 6:9 in the Bible, he said, "Pray after this manner." So it's not like you have to pray the prayer exactly as it's written, but you could make it personal between you and God. And talk to God as though He's your friend, minus the foul language. But just try not to use the these and the thous because we don't speak in that language today, and it's just from the Old Testament. Now, some people find it, uh, I don't want to really know the word I'd want to use there, but it's comforting to them perhaps. And I think the big thing is you don't have to pray that, but if you do, it don't matter. I mean, it's not, you're not doing bad either way. The fact is you're praying. Number three, if you have a Bible, go to the book of Psalms. There are many beautiful prayers found there, and you can enhance your prayer ability by reading in the Psalms. The Psalms is a great book, anyhow. I have my sponsees people I work with in AA. A lot of times I had them read a chapter from Proverbs every day, and because there's 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs, and all it is basically wisdom about life and how you treat people, how you treat God, and all the rest. It's just really good stuff. But Psalms, in the same respect, there's just so much in there that can transform you to how you think and how you pray and how you change your perspectives, basically. But I found that if I read the Psalms before I pray, sometimes it fertilizes, so to say, the soil to when I pray, that it enriches it, the prayer itself. If you want answered prayer, be consistent. And this is number 4. So when I got sober, my prayer was this: God, keep me sober today. And that was it. But I was consistent with it, and it worked. Other times I'd pray for a need or a problem with using lots of words, but only prayed that prayer maybe one time, and guess what I got? Presto, nothing, not a zilch. I gave up sometimes those prayers. That does not mean, by the way, I pray a lot of prayers, request, whatever, in long, lot of words, and I use some in short words, but the point is that you're talking to God, you're relating, and you're listening for what He might be saying. Now, how do you know when you listen that it's God talking to you? Normally, if it's something bad, it's not Him. If it's something good, it is Him. The angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other. People like to use that analogy, but it's really TV-ish, or something from Hollywood based, but it really is that you're being bombarded constantly with thoughts that are good and thoughts that are bad. And what thoughts are yours, a lot of times is, yours. You make the decision either way. And that's one of the wonderful things about God is He lets us make our decisions. He gives us a free will. So, but that was it. I was consistent with it, and it worked. And I just encourage you, just if you're really struggling with your recovery, roll out of bed, ask God to keep you sober. Before you go to sleep at night, thank Him for keeping you sober. There's so much to learn about praying. I mean, we just want to hit this maybe a little today, but there'd be other things that maybe talk about answered prayer and stuff too. Um, Bible says you have not because you ask not in book of James. I think it's the 4th chapter. And then Matthew 7:7 says, ask and you shall receive. Now, book of James also said one other thing, too, that I think is very important. And that is, it says, you have not because you ask not. And then he says, you have not because you ask amiss, which means you ask selfishly. In Matthew 7:7, it says, ask and you shall receive. And it's really saying, ask and keep asking. It's what it's trying to convey. And let me add this. Ask big, pray big prayers. Not prayers of selfish indulgence, like it's okay to pray for a place to live, a job, transportation, all that, but to pray to be the CEO of a major corporation, for example, or to live in Malibu surrounded by stars. Don't bother. That's just praying selfish prayers, and you're wasting air, basically. Before recovery, we used to tend to pray the foxhole prayers too. It's something to think about. That's when you're good and loaded and you're driving around, and all of a sudden the flashing lights go on behind you, and you say, oh God, don't let this cop pull me over, I'll get an OVI. And here's where, like, many of the people become atheist or agnostic. They expect God to answer that prayer, but they like that, be the atheist or agnostic. They wear it kind of like as a badge. I'm not making fun of any of that. I mean, that's just something that they have no idea or understanding of faith or religion, or what the latest findings are. So anyhow, but I believe that this is where I hear people like in recovery, they'll say stuff like, well, I tried to pray, but, nothing, and so I don't really believe in God. And I get asked the circumstances when I got that OVI, when I asked God to keep that cop from pulling me over. But, think about that for a moment. It got me to say, well, I had meth on me and all this other thing, so I had to do 6 months. I lost my house, I lost my car. If he would just answered that prayer, I wouldn't have had that problem. Well, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but you're coming from some planet, in some far distant galaxy. But because, you're asking God to do something that He may have answered your prayer whether you know it or not. You might have kept driving. That cop hadn't pulled you over and you killed yourself, maybe killed somebody else. Who knows? But the point is, He didn't put the liquor in you. He didn't say the meth. And He also didn't put you behind the wheel and say, take off, have a good time. So anyhow, we can't blame God for things that we do and say, well, there's no God because of those things. But anyhow, I got this on this page here. It's one other thing that brings to mind that I wanted to say also. God responds to faith when we pray. And not the faith that you belong to, like Catholic or Protestant or anything like that. But I'm talking, I believe, faith in Him, that you trust in that He can, and believing that He will answer your prayer. It's kind of, I guess you want to say it's envisioning something. If you're praying for somebody that's out there using and boozing, and you're concerned about their life and their health and everything else, and you pray, God, help this person find sobriety or whatever. It's like you want to envision what you're saying as happening, as though it's already done. And that's applying faith to the prayer. And you're seeing that person with a good job, back home with the family, maybe attending church, maybe attending recovery meetings on a regular basis. But, we have to stretch our faith to understand that seeing is not believing, believing is seeing. Hold fast to what your heart believes. You can always doubt with your eyes. And this little post was intended to help those new into recovery. And there's a lot to cover regarding prayer, so keep tuning in and watch change happen in your life. Now, also, if you like the post today, if you can hit the like button, once again, that kind of helps get the post out there so people see it. And thank you for tuning in, and have a good evening.